Okay, I'm back. I don't know why the sound is kind of tinny. I'm going to have to do something about that. It is rather annoying. Okay, so what I'm thinking as well, obviously there's a huge push across the EU and particularly in the UK and France for this conflict to go on. They want to send more money to Zelensky. They're not really interested in supporting a peace process, and they're becoming more and more anti-Trump by the day. The whole Trump hysteria and the Putin hysteria is in full swing. Don't know what's happening with this fringe, I'm sorry. And I'm thinking of it this way. Now, remember, if you reuse the analogy of the Titanic, they kept the band playing right until the end. They tried to keep things looking normal so there wouldn't be mass panic as people realized it was going down, because they wanted to get the rich people, I suppose, to the lifeboats first. And I think what's been happening in the UK is a Titanic analogy. They're keeping your TV shows, the football, the sports ball, all that. They're keeping all that going so people have a sense of normality. But we know that this country, like the Titanic, is listing, and people are beginning to notice. For example, so many councils going bankrupt, the huge increases in prices we're going to be seeing from April, water companies going bankrupt, sewage in the sea, people noticing the enormous influx of migrants, both legal and illegal, and the strain that's putting on customer services, on customer facilities and not customer social services, etc., the NHS. People are noticing the country's listing. That's why they're going to talk up this war. They've got to bring on the war agenda, because too many people are noticing too many things. Too many people are feeling it now, and people are going to be getting restless. And that's what I want to talk about in terms of. Now, Pluto's entered Aquarius. Uranus will be entering Gemini this year, which means that the Uranus Pluto midpoint will be on 0 degrees of Aries, which is called the world point. It's very significant because it sucks energy into the public domain where everything's noticeable. So it's increased visibility, exactly what I'm saying about the ship listing and people noticing. There's a public impact, so widely affecting huge millions, billions of people when things are on the Aries point. A fated and collective influence, right? I suppose as a collective, we're all going through this. There's also a collective happening in terms of the, what would you say, the replacement, the huge shifts in terms of culture, demographics, the structure of countries. And it's also a trigger for major events. So having the enormously revolutionary planet, Pluto, plus Uranus, which is also revolutionary, quite right-wing, quite volatile, creating a midpoint on the Aries point, seems to me that all that momentous energy is going to be sucked through, leading to explosive events which will keep occurring from April through this year and next, because the movement of Pluto and Uranus will keep triggering that point. And what's more, we have the Saturn Neptune conjunction on Aries point as well. And those two planets are of a kind of nefarious background, which we'll talk about. So let's mention a little bit more about what the Pluto-Uranus midpoint could mean. Revolutionary impact, right? Yes, we are going through a revolution, a cultural revolution. It's very similar to the Mao revolution, but we're also going through a revolution in terms of our own awakenings, with more and more people understanding what's going on. Public upheaval, yeah, well, I've talked before about the Clowen-Piven thing, where this whole accelerationism, the mass immigration, legal and illegal, is always meant to overwhelm public services to the point where massive cuts and changes have to be made. And look at Starmer talking today, cutting public service rules, paying public service or civil servants to quit, huge cuts to disability. Who would ever thought a Labour government would be doing such radical things that are really affecting everyday people? This is what I mean about public upheaval. There's a massive upheaval going on with people's finances, people's job prospects, people's health prospects, and the ship listing, everyone's noticing it now. It's getting chaotic. People are beginning to panic and think, what the hell's going on? Powerful awakenings. That's everyone who's realizing, suddenly questioning, looking at the media, the government, thinking, what the hell's going on? This isn't right. More people understand something's fundamentally rotten at the core of this. This is not organic. Historical significance. Yeah, we do in many ways live in Armageddon. You don't have to believe in the Bible, but if you think of the impact of everything that's happening and the massive change. Just look at the UK society in the last 50 years. Look at the change in COVID. Look at the massive change going on in a country like Ireland. This is some sort of massive cultural apocalypse, right? So again, themes with the Uranus Pluto is radical transformation of our societies, our cultures, our financial well-being, rebellion and breakthroughs. Well, hopefully there is a breakthrough in terms of people's understanding. A psychological and spiritual evolution. Yeah, this is all causing a spiritual awakening, because at the heart of it is a battle for truth, a battle against lies. This is fundamentally spiritual, isn't it? And technology and scientific advancements, well, we'll see about that, and societal upheaval and crises. We're going to be seeing crisis upon crisis upon crisis, which is why they have to keep banging this war drum to detract from all the other crises that are happening. And the money crisis. I mean, I think in the UK particularly, the money has to be running out. Look at the money they're giving to Ukraine. There's a gaping black vacuum in the public finances. More and more millionaires leaving because of the high taxes. We know more taxes, the less you take in. Less spending power, the decimation of the high street, say lower disposable income. It's totally changing the way everyone lives their lives, and particularly coming in April with the price rise apocalypse. Then, a lot of people are saying in America as well, because there's so many job cuts because of what Elon's doing with the DOJ, which, I mean, I'm always am for small state, so I would support that. But, the whole tariff thing, who knows how that can escalate and affect the balance of world economy, which is so, tender and so iffy as it is, right? Now, let's see, what else are we talking about here? I should mention also some incidents regarding Neptune conjunct Saturn. For example, there's been economic crises and restructuring when Neptune's been conjunct Saturn, because historically this conjunction coincided with recessions, depressions, shifts in economic models, very important. They were always associated with communism. And we know that we're moving towards net zero as a communist planned economy, a lot of control, less choice. So very much in a communist kind of model, more control, more monitoring. Saturn represents stability and control. Neptune dissolves boundaries, leading to uncertainty in financial markets, a loss in trusts of institutions. I think we could see insurance institutions particularly failing because of all the weather crises that are being engineered. And also inflationary cycles. Oh, well, we're going to see that, right? Inflationary cycles. So much so, we're seeing that in the UK. There's also spiritual and ideological shifts. Religious awakenings, cult movements. I think we are going to see more and more people being drawn to very charismatic leaders. In some cases, they might not offer anything. Maybe they will offer something, but people will be looking for spiritual and political guidance, and therefore cult leaders will emerge very strongly. A loss of faith in traditional ideologies. Yeah, I think people are going to see, because this whole thing of countries is not really a thing. Countries are becoming meaningless. Borders are becoming meaningless. We cannot trust our institutions, whether it be the judiciary, police, the judiciary becoming more and more politicized in very much a communist vein. Social justice, which of course means justice along the lines of someone's perceived background, perceived, what would you call it? Like they're talking about these changes to the justice system in the UK with sentencing, when you take into account people's ethnicity, background, whether they're from minorities, for the sentencing, because that's perceived to have impacted their behavior, blah, blah, blah. So that's also a very communist thing, leading to less trust in institutions. It also mentions Neptune, Saturn, chaos and dissolution. Saturn is about the structures, the financial, the government structures. Neptune's blurring everything. This is the ship listing, everything beginning to creak under the enormous weight of the pressure, not being able to cope. So from the NHS to the banking to the retail, everything's struggling. Immigration crises, debates over border and control, very much a theme of Saturn Neptune. Legal and government reforms, which are actually increasing the unpredictability. Global events and collective hardship, another theme with Neptune Saturn.